Happy holidays, folks, I guess you could say. It's 420. It's Patriots Day over here in the Massachusetts area where I am currently residing in college. I don't celebrate 420, obviously. I don't even really look at it as a holiday, but to each their own. I'm straight edge anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I am wearing my Rob Van Dam t-shirt for what it's worth. I'm a huge RVD fan. He calls himself Mr. 420, so might as well celebrate in that respect. But nevertheless, whatever you guys are doing today, it's a Monday, 420, Patriots Day, whatever. Hopefully you guys are having a great week and a great Monday. But hashtag AskGSM back here today with answering all of your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to send in a question, you can find me on Facebook at GrahamGSMMatthews, Facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post that I put up on Sunday nights, or leave a comment on that post or on the wall itself. Also, make sure to tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM, or leave a comment on this very video. So, of course, kicking off, we got a lot of questions here today, but because it's Patriots Day here in the Massachusetts area, I have today off from class, so I have a lot more time to answer your questions. I don't know if we'll go over the hour, but there are a lot of good questions this week. So, kicking it up, Jose K from YouTube's got 2 questions. First one being, is postponing Cody Rhodes from changing from Stardust a good idea? Maybe saving it for a huge stage like Money in the Bank. You know, someone brought that up to me a couple of weeks ago. It was right after Stardust's U.S. Open Challenge match against John Cena for the United States Championship. A great match, and I tweeted afterwards that, you know, Stardust, I've been saying this since the day he turned into Stardust 10 months ago now, that he's an amazing athlete stuck with a stupid gimmick. And I mean, I give him credit, and I mean, I've said this before, but I give him credit for dedicating himself to the gimmick, making it his own, making the most out of it. But the bottom line is that he's so much more, he's capable of so much more than that. Cody Rhodes is an incredible athlete, an incredible superstar whose potential is, he has a lot of untapped potential. The guy could be a future world champion if they handled him properly and not giving him a mustache and a dumb mask and then the stupid face paint, whatever. That said, he has to go back to being Cody Rhodes eventually. It looked like they were teasing it during the feud with Goldust that was ultimately scrapped for whatever reason, and they just kind of strayed away from it. Now they're still doing the Cody chants, but it doesn't look like they're leading to anything. And anyway, I tweeted after that match with John Cena that he had a couple of weeks ago saying that, you know, now it's time to turn him back into Cody Rhodes. And someone replied back to me saying, you know, in due time, you got to wait for it. It's going to be a big moment. And truth be told, while that may be true, I mean, I don't have enough faith in WWE to think that they have a long-term plan for paying this character off, for paying this storyline off. I think they really just don't have anywhere to go with Stardust right now. He had a great match against John Cena, but the very next week, he had like a 2-minute squash against Fandango. That was more about Fandango than it was against Stardust. Then it was about Stardust. I'm very, very much hoping that they do change him back to Cody Rhodes at some point. And you said maybe at Money in the Bank. Dude, that'd be awesome. I've been saying for years that Cody Rhodes has been due for a Money in the Bank briefcase when the guy's been in the match for the last 5 years. He's never won it. I think that'd be a great platform for him to get to the next level in WWE because he deserves it. So that said, I don't think they're saving it for a big stage. I would love to see them do that. I would have saved it for WrestleMania, but they fucked that up, like I said before, during the feud with Goldust. I don't think they're holding it out for a big stage. I think they really just don't have anything for him, and they don't have any plans to turn him back into Cody Rhodes at any point in the near future. But they really much should, because the guy deserves to be Cody Rhodes. He should be Cody Rhodes, because that's where his potential lies, in my opinion. Jose's second question, should any tag team out there right now be the ones to win the tag team titles, or none of them should take it off the team of Cesaro and Tyson Kidd? Should there be a new tag team that emerges from NXT? Well, first of all, I apologize for the echo in this room. I'm actually in my the newspaper room where I write in the newspaper here at school because I'm off today, so I don't really have that window of time in the dorm by myself, so I'm doing it here in the observer room to get some peace and quiet. So I apologize if there's an echo. But to answer your question, though, I digress. Who should be the tag team to take the tag team titles off of Cesaro and Kidd? Well, first of all, I wouldn't take the tag team titles off of them at any point in the near future. They're an amazing tag team. They've done a lot of great things as tag team champions since they won the belts 2 months ago. Had a lot of good matches with the Usos, a fun pre-show match at WrestleMania. At this point in time, I mean, the next tag team that I think should take the tag team titles off of them should be the Lucha Dragons. There's nobody else on the horizon. The Usos have won it 2 or 3 times, I think, by this point. 2-time tag team champions. And they're out for the next 6 months anyway, so that's a no. The New Day sucks. Not a fan of the New Day. Heel or face. They should not be the team to take the titles off of them. Same thing with Los Matadores. I'm trying to think of I'm sure there's other tag teams right now that we have. I just can't think of any. On the Lucha Dragons, though, you said a new tag team that emerges from NXT. Technically, they're already on the main roster. But the next tag team champions should be them. Maybe not as soon as this Sunday at Extreme Rules if they do hold the matchup. I presume they will, but nothing's been confirmed as of this recording. But I think the Lucha Dragons should be the next tag team champions. I think, like the reign as NXT tag team champions, they can really have a great series of matches with Cesaro and Kid, bring some prestige back to those belts. And Cesaro and Kid have done that, but jobbing them out to Cena and Daniel Bryan, I was fine with that to an extent, but having them lose to Randy Orton on Raw in a 2-on-1 handicap match made absolutely no sense. Like, Orton didn't benefit from that whatsoever. Cesaro and Kid certainly didn't benefit from that. It was a nice match, but in the end, it didn't really mean anything. That shouldn't have happened. So, yeah, that being said, who should be the tag team to take the titles off of Cesaro and Kid? Like I said, hopefully not at any point in the near future, but maybe down the line I would go with the Lucha Dragons. Or I don't know when Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy are coming up. They should win the NXT tag team titles first. But, they could also be another candidate to win those tag team titles. I would love to see them as tag team champions. I think those guys are, over like crazy over in NXT. And to see them come up, win the belts would be awesome. I don't know if they would hold keep the belts on Cesaro and Kid for that long period of time. But, they'd be another viable candidate as well. Up next, the first KFC's got a couple questions. First one being, who has the worst and best finisher in NXT? Best finisher, I didn't go down the entire roster, so maybe a few that I'm missing out, but best, the first one that came to mind, End of Days by Baron Corbin. Not a huge Baron Corbin fan, and someone else asked a question. Andre, actually, from Facebook, asked a question about Baron Corbin. I'll get to him in a minute. But I love the finisher, though. The End of Days finisher, he can hit it on Bull Dempsey. He can hit it on the smallest guy, the local athlete, whoever. I think it's a great finisher. Granted, he can't do it on anybody. I can't see him doing it to Big Show of all people, I think the whole mantra in NXT for a long time was whether if you can hit your finisher on the Big Show, then you're fine. Like, it's a good finisher. So I think that was kind of the mantra in NXT. I don't know if it is anymore. I don't know if they kind of did away with that or whatever. But I know from hearing interviews from various guys from developmental that if you can hit your finisher on the Big Show, then it's a good finisher. He can't hit that on the Big Show, I would imagine. But it still is a really, really impressive-looking finisher. No matter how many times you see it, I still think it's the coolest thing ever. Finn Balor's finisher, Coupe de Grace or something like that. I mispronounced it. I botched that horribly. That's also a great finisher, too. The double foot stomp off the top rope. I know Low-Key used to do, or still does the same thing over in TNA. That's a cool finisher, too. So those two finishers, I think, are among the best in NXT. Again, maybe I'm missing one, but those are the two that came to mind. Worst finisher, CJ Parker's gone, so the thrust that he would do into the neck or something, I always thought that was the dumbest thing. But he's gone, so it doesn't really even beat out CJ Parker. That was horrendous. Or he still does it. I don't know if he does it anymore. He hasn't been in action for quite some time. But he had the old Naomi finisher. Now, it's dumb enough for Naomi to do it, but the big-ass thing with Naomi, I kind of get it. But it's still stupid. It's even worse for Mojo Rawley, for a guy of his build. There is no reason why he should be doing that dumb finisher. The rear view from Naomi, he does the same exact thing. So fucking dumb. That's a dumb finisher. He's not a great wrestler anyway, so that's kind of the cherry on top of him not being the complete package. But when he comes back, or if he comes back, I don't know if he's going to make the cut, but I guess WWE sees something in him. I'm not really sure. But when he does come back to in-ring action, hopefully he does change his finisher. That's the first thing that's got to go, it's not working. It's a stupid finisher. It's not going to be effective on anybody. And the second question, who should end Ethan Carter III's undefeated streak? And that's a good question. I really haven't put any thought into that. I was thinking, I've been thinking this for a while, because I thought he should be the one to win the Bound for Glory series last year, and they never even ended up holding the Bound for Glory series last year. But nevertheless, I still think that he should go on to win the World Championship at, still undefeated. The guy's been undefeated. I don't think anyone realizes this. Maybe some people do, but it's not very much recognized by the public from what I understand anyway. It's not really brought up on commentary too much. But Ethan Carter III has been undefeated in singles competition since October of 2013. That's 18 months right there. And I put this out on Twitter, and he replied saying, yes. I'm not exactly sure, though. It might be just being a heel and just being cocky or whatever, but it was cool to see him respond. And that I noted on Twitter a couple weeks ago is that I think his undefeated streak has beaten out the one of Samoa Joe's when he first arrived in TNA, and he was undefeated for like 18 months. So I think he might have officially the longest reigning undefeated streak in TNA history, unless it ends in the next couple of weeks, which I don't think it will. Then I think he now officially holds the record for the longest reigning undefeated streak in TNA history. Maybe in wrestling history. I don't know how long other people have gone undefeated for. I mean, Andre, I know, was never pinned, so maybe not in wrestling history. I take that back. But, in recent memory anyway, in the last 10 years. So it's an impressive feat. To answer your question, though, who should be the one to end it? It kind of goes back to what I was saying before. I think he should win the world championship still undefeated. Whoever the world champion is, I have no idea. I mean, Kurt Angle would be cool, considering the fact they kind of feuded for a little bit for a cup of coffee last year, never really ended up going anywhere because Kurt Angle got injured. He beat Kurt Angle, but that was kind of the end of that, and they never really went back to that feud. So I would be fine with them going back to that feud for that, that match for the world championship. I don't want to see Angle be the one to beat him. I mean, I guess it would make sense from a storyline standpoint, but I think at this point, the person who beats EC3 should equally benefit from it, and it should not be fucking Kurt Angle, a guy that doesn't need it. I like Kurt Angle, but he does not need that win. I'm trying to think of other people that could potentially end it. Maybe like an up-and-coming star on the rise, like a babyface. Rockstar Spud would have been a fine addition, but I feel I would have been a fine candidate, but he wasn't believable enough, and I mean, as the underdog, it would have been a great moment, but I'm glad they kind of kept it intact for the foreseeable future and having him beat Rockstar Spud. Regardless, though, I really don't have anyone in mind. Like I said, I feel like he should go for the World Championship and either win it undefeated, whoever the champion is, whether it be Kurt Angle, Bobby Roode, I doubt James Storm, but whoever is the champion at that time should be the one to finally beat EC3. Next set of questions come from Facebook. First from Andre G. What do you think WWE should do with Baron Corbin? I don't know if I said this last week. I think I mentioned this to RJ because he texted me about it, that he's been doing the same thing, that Baron Corbin's been doing the same fucking thing since he arrived 7 months ago, and that could not be any more true. The guy came on the NXT scene back in September with, a head of fire, a head of steam, winning all these squash matches, staying undefeated with an awesome finish or whatever, and it never really ultimately led anywhere. It led to him just doing squash matches, a throwaway feud with with Bull Dempsey. I mean, he is Baron Corbin. That wasn't really that good, and since that lackluster matchup at Rival, I think it was, back in February, he hasn't done anything. He's maybe appeared twice or 3 times or something, but all in squash matches, and we have not gotten a better feel of what's next for him in NXT. So, that being said, what should you do with him? From what I understand, he portrayed a heel at the NXT Live event over WrestleMania weekend a couple weeks ago, and he played the heel to Rhino, which would be awesome. I would love to see that feud. I think I don't know if the matches would be any good, but Rhino's a good enough worker where I feel like he could carry him to a good program and put him over in the end with Corbin as the heel. As a babyface, he was really popular, but at this point in time, he's not really, he's still popular, but he's not doing anything. I feel like he'd be better off just going heel. So, I would turn him heel, have a feud with Rhino, I think is the best solution to him right now, for him right now. Andre's second question, should TNA sign more younger stars and not count on the veterans so much? Absolutely. I mean, they haven't really done that as much, but it's not because they won't. It's more so because they can't, because a lot of the veterans have left. A lot of them are just gone, AJ left, Sting left. The only real veterans that are there, I mean, just so many people have left in the last 10 years. I don't know if you mean TNA veterans or just wrestling veterans like a Sting, a Booker T, Kevin Nash, whatever. But right now, the only 2 veterans that come to mind for me anyway are Kurt Angle and Jeff Hardy. And that's pretty much it. And Jeff Hardy's been in the tag team scene. Kurt Angle's world champion, but it is what it is, and I'll get to that, why that is in a minute. Someone asked a question about that. But, they should absolutely, count on their younger stars more often. I feel like that's where their money is. And they have done that to an extent. Guys like Bryan, especially EC3. EC3 has been the best part of TNA for the last year and a half since he arrived. I feel like the handling of him has been excellent. Give TNA all the shit that you want, but for the things they do right, they really do right, and EC3 is a prime example of that. Rockstar Spud's another new guy on the scene that's been flourishing as of late. So, they should absolutely sign younger stars that we haven't seen before. And like I said, they've done that with some guys. They haven't really been picking up older veterans in a while now. But, people like Maya Yim and Marty Bell, even for the women, are new. I've been exposed to the work before. I think they were on one of the more recent knockout pay-per-views, whatever it was called, one of the one-night-only shows. And both of them were really good. And I would love to see them do well in TNA, and I think they're arriving this upcoming week, so I'm looking forward to that. But, they should absolutely count on new blood as opposed to the older stars who aren't going to do anything for the company. Hulk Hogan was with them for 3 or 4 years, he didn't draw a fucking dime to TNA, aside from that one night they went live with Raw, head-to-head with Raw, drawing their biggest rating ever. And that was their peak, and that was 5 fucking years ago, and they haven't gotten anywhere close to that since. So they absolutely, if they want to, build towards the future, they should start building up the younger stars and signing them right now. I skipped over the question, but his second question was, accidentally anyway, what do you think is the reason why TNA put the title on Kurt Angle? So from what I understand, according to dirt sheets and reports and whatever, the reason why Kurt Angle is world champion right now is because Destination America likes the idea of an Olympic gold medalist, an Olympic wrestler being their world champion because it's Destination America, whatever. I don't really have an issue with that. The thing that I had an issue with, that I thought was stupid, not really had an issue with, but I just thought it was so fucking dumb, was that they were all, butthurt over the fact that TNA went over to the UK and taped as many shows as they did, despite the fact that their shows in TNA, that their shows in England were among the hottest shows that TNA has done in a long, long time. Some great string of shows from TNA just recently when they were over in the United Kingdom, over in Europe. So that thing is stupid, but, I mentioned this on Wrestle Rant Radio last week, but TNA just can't get too frustrated with that. They have enough financial issues they need to focus on. I understand Destination America's influence on the product is not always a positive one. I understand that. They can be an issue. But you can't bitch and complain about that due to the fact that this is the only network, from what we understand anyway, that bothered to give TNA a chance. And without them, TNA would be dead. TNA would be fucking dead without Destination America. So they should appreciate the opportunity that they have to be with them and be able to show their show on their network. I don't even have Destination America. I have to go out of my way to watch the show, but I like TNA enough to the point I'm a huge enough fan that I will dedicate myself to watching the product regardless of whether I have the channel or not. The other shows on that network are like stupid as hell. Like they have some ghost show and hillbillies and all this other dumb stuff, and I'm not really a fan. I'm not saying it's stupid, but I guess I did just say it was stupid, but I'm just not a fan. So TNA is kind of out of place on the network, but they have been promoting them a lot more. You see commercials for TNA during Raw and SmackDown and on USA and whatever. They've done a really good job of promoting TNA since they went over to the new network. So that is great to see, and that's absolutely what they should be doing. But the whole influence on the product, just get the fuck over it. This is the only network that bothered to give you a chance. And like I said, this is not coming from a TNA hater. I loved it. I love TNA. I went to their first show on the new network in New York City, in Manhattan, the Manhattan Center in New York City a couple months ago, on the first Wednesday of 2015. So I love TNA. I just want to see them succeed. But to go back to your original question, from what I understand, the reason they put the title on Kurt Angle is because Destination America loves the idea of them having a Olympic gold medalist as their world champion. Whatever. So his next question is, do you think Jeff Jarrett will ever make a return to WWE? And if so, what's one match you would like to see him in, and against who? Would he ever go back to WWE? Like, is he Hall of Fame worthy? He may go back. I highly doubt it. I really don't have any desire to see Jeff Jarrett back in WWE. I didn't grow up in the time that he was with the company. Of course, I'm aware of it, but I don't really have that emotional attachment to him being with the company. He was a really good worker, very successful, former tag team champion, intercontinental champion. But does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? If Rikishi, it all really goes back to Rikishi. If Rikishi's in there, I would not doubt it. But with him kind of giving birth to TNA and the company that they hate, even though they're not competition, whatever. His involvement with TNA, now Global Force Wrestling, whatever. I don't see him going back to WWE or going to the Hall of Fame, whatever. And like I said, I don't really care to see him back in WWE. If anything, and this really cannot be said for many people, I would like to see him back in TNA. I would love to see him back in TNA. I love this character in its final years. A lot of people weren't a fan of it, but when he was a heel and he was doing the whole feud with Kurt Angle and all the Jeff Hardy, whatever, I thought his work in 2011 was some of the best work that he ever did in quite some time. He wasn't world champion, but he was in some high-profile matches, a lot of really good matches with Kurt Angle that I very much enjoyed. The feud dragged out longer than it should have, but for the most part, though, I thought it was a really, really good feud, and I enjoyed it. So I would rather see him back in TNA more than anything else. But that's not going to happen because he's starting up his own promotion, which is bullshit. Not the starting up promotion thing, but the fact that he's not already in the TNA Hall of Fame. They missed their opportunity to do it in 2012 and in 2013, whatever. He deserves to be in there. The guy, because he's now a competitor of TNA, he's not going to go in there anytime soon, if ever. But he's the fucking founder of the company. He deserves to be in there. But it is what it is. So I really don't have any desire to see Jeff Jarrett back in WWE. And if there's any opponent that I would like to see him face, like I said, I don't really care. So I can't really pick out an opponent. Like I can't see him, foaming at the mouth to see him face John Cena or something like that. I mean, the guy came from an era where, I don't know, it was like the mid-'90s era, but he wasn't a big star. I mean, it's a little different than even a Kevin Nash or Scott Hall or something, where those guys were big-time players during that mid-'90s period. He was kind of a mid-card guy at best. I mean, it's like seeing D'Lo Brown return. The only reason I would love to see him return is because he was awesome, But he's at an age where I really don't care to see him back in a prominent role. Same thing with Jeff Jarrett. Moving in, or his last question anyway, or actually, I'm sorry, I almost said moving into the Twitter questions, but Justin G, of course, from Facebook's got a couple questions as well. Do you think Adrian Neville is your early bird pick for newcomer of the year? I mean, for right now, there's not many candidates. There's Adrian Neville, there's the Lucha Dragons. If we're talking about newcomers on the main roster, has there been anyone else that's arrived in the main roster in the last couple of months that I'm not aware of? I don't think so, unless, I mean, like, it's only April, so of course right now he's going to be the newcomer of the year. The Lucha Dragons have been making an impact, but Adrian Neville in his matches with Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler and all these other guys, Sheamus most recently, has made an impact, which is great to see. I don't want to see him lose every match he's a part of, but for right now he's doing well. He's having a lot of great performances against all these guys. So, yeah, right now he takes the award for Newcomer of the Year, but it really all depends where he goes from here, how they handle him going forward, and who else comes up on the scene in the next couple of months through the remainder of the year. His second question, for the longest time now, we have heard that a UFC fighter would like to join the WWE or buy into the company. Do you think we will ever see an MMA fighter grace a WWE ring? I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there's been so many names, like you said, that have rumored to be coming to WWE or in talks. I know Chael Sonnen has been, reportedly in talks with WWE. That's what he claims. I know he's like a big mouth, but it would be cool. I'm a Chael Sonnen fan. I mean, he's very much like CM Punk. He's got the gift of gab, and I mean, I don't know if he was the greatest UFC fighter ever, but from what I've seen, from what I've heard of him, he's very entertaining. I mean, I don't want to see him maybe wrestle, but maybe as a commentator, that'd be fucking awesome. Aside from that, though, I mean, there's the only person that comes to mind that would be very much likely. I mean, I think there is a chance that we would see an MMA fighter eventually grace the WWE ring. Aside from, like, of course, Brock Lesnar and Ken Shamrock, who are the obvious candidates for people that have already come over from UFC into the WWE. Lesnar from UFC and going from WWE to UFC and then coming back, but whatever, still counts. Ronda Rousey, I think. We've talked about this before on Wrestle Rant Radio, but it really all comes down to the relationship between Dana White and Vince. I know Rock's agent kind of convinced Dana into doing that spot at WrestleMania, but at the end of the day, Vince and Dana especially has to sign off on it. Unless it's a win-win deal for both promotions, then it's not going to go to fruition. It's unfortunate. Even if it's not a match, even if she's in the corner of Triple H for a match against The Rock, I would be totally down with that too. Because a match against Stephanie would last like all of a minute, which is not saying it's a bad thing, but I mean, knowing Ronda Rousey and how much of a badass she is, it's not going to be a competitive match. She would kick anyone's ass who she's in the ring with, whether it be, anyone, whether it be Stephanie or Rosa Mendez or Paige, she would kill anyone she's in the ring with, no matter how great they are in WWE. That being said, though, I think she's the likeliest one from UFC to make an appearance in WWE while she's still under contract to UFC. All the other people that are no longer in UFC that want to come over to WWE, I think there's a chance. I mean, I know Triple H is trying to groom former football players and collegiate athletes and stuff like that into WWE talent over in the Performance Center, but I think it would be worth a shot if they could bring in an MMA fighter and kind of give them some exposure, some attention, saying, hey, this is the first guy not named Ken Shamrock or Brock Lesnar to come to WWE and be successful, and it's something new, it's something fresh. So it's not out of the question whatsoever. I would love to see it, though. Next question. Over the past week, we have seen TNA talent such as Tazz walk away from Impact. Do you think that the release of Tazz from TNA, it will open up a return to the WWE for him? So I went on, not a rant, but I talked about this on Twitter last night, actually only hours before he sent in this question, that the thing with Tazz, it's not that I hate Tazz. I like Tazz. But the thing is that people are, I don't know if they're clamoring, but there have been some reports of people, not reports, but you know what I mean. There have been people, like I've been hearing people say, I would love to see Tazz back in WWE on the commentary booth. It would make commentary so much better or whatever. Maybe. But here's the thing. We all said the same thing about JBL back in 2012. It's the same exact fucking thing. Tazz or JBL, I like. I think he's a good commentator, but when produced by Vince McMahon in the headset and becomes the overbearing, obnoxious heel, the cheerleader for the authority, he is terrible. In JBL's first year with the company back, from 2012 to 2013, he was really, really good. He was enhancing the shows. He was great. He was spot on. He was heel at some times, but he was keeping it to a minimum. Now that the authority's around and Vince is just shoving JBL down our throats, he's horrendous to listen to. And I feel like Tazz, if they brought him in, it would be the exact same thing. In TNA, he was so fucking annoying as a cheerleader for the Aces and the Eights, and they would probably make him do the same thing as being the cheerleader for the authority, whatever. If he wasn't being produced by Vince McMahon, yes, it would be great to see Tazz back in WWE. And I mentioned this on Twitter, but again, the 3 things I would love to see Tazz be a part of in WWE if he was to come back, and this is not official, I mean, this is all just speculation. 3 things. 1, be a commentator for NXT, obviously the hands-down best commentary team in WWE right now because they're the only commentary duo not being produced by Vince, probably being produced by Triple H, but at least he's not overbearing and obnoxious and not shoving the commentators down our throat. They're really, really good. The trio of Rich Brennan, Jason Albert, and Corey Graves are great. If you throw Tazz in there, even better. Or take, out Tensai Jason Albert and replace him with Tazz, even better. You can do that. Have him be a trainer for NXT. He's not on screen, but he can be a trainer. Or he can be one of the trainers for the up-and-coming Tough Enough show, which is actually going to be live on the USA Network. It's not already been taped. They're going to be doing it for the USA Network live, whatever, the 6th season, I guess it is. Maybe it's the 7th season. I think it's the 6th season, whatever. But yeah, I think Tazz as a trainer for Tough Enough, for NXT, or even as a commentator on NXT would be great. Him as a commentator on Raw or SmackDown, I mean, it would be cool to see. But again, what makes him different, any different than JBL? I mean, he's a better commentator than JBL, but he would be produced by Vince McMahon. I mean, it's not the people. I mean, I know I clamor on it. I've come to my senses now. Even if they brought up Corey Graves or Jason Albert or William Regal, Alex Riley, Renee Young, I think Renee Young would be the exception because she's something different. She's a completely different style from anyone else, and I think that's a good thing. And she's a woman, too, so they're not going to have her be the over-obnoxious heel commentator if she's a woman. She's likable. They're not going to have her be a heel. That said, though, they would just produce him like anyone else. They would produce him like Michael Cole or Jerry Lawler or JBL or Byron Saxton, who the fuck ever, He's not going to be any good. So, yeah, I would like to see him in WWE to answer your question. I don't see how likely it is. I'm not really sure. I don't know if he has any more projects going on right now or whatever he's doing. I know he's doing a new podcast pretty soon. I know he's already doing a podcast, but I guess from what I heard, he's going to be doing a podcast 5 days a week or something like that for whatever he's going to be doing next. But I would love to see him back in WWE. Not sure if it's too likely, but in some other role other than a commentator on Raw or SmackDown because it would be the same exact thing as JBL. I think it would be great. We'd love to see Tazz back in WWE. Moving on to the Twitter questions. At Brad Berdar, he's got a couple questions here. I think he sent these in last week, and I just skipped over them, or he sent them in too late, I think. But nevertheless, Brad's questions include, have there been any wrestling angles, feuds that you enjoyed that were panned by most fans? So I don't know exactly what you meant by that question. I don't know if you meant like a feud or an angle that was like a dream feud that never came to fruition on TV, or feuds that were as a result of fans. I'm not exactly sure what you meant by that. I mean, there's been a lot of cool feuds proposed by fans, like in dream scenarios. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I don't know if Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho counts. I know that wasn't really supposed to go on as long as it did, but because of fan reaction and stuff like that, it went on a lot longer than it did. So maybe that, or the pipe bomb, the reaction to that kind of catapulted into something much bigger than it was. So, maybe those would count. I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but yeah, I guess to answer your question in a way, maybe those two feuds. I can't really go into further detail because I don't know exactly what you mean, but those are my two answers for that, from what I understand anyway. His second question, what AJ Lee feud are you most disappointed we never got to see? Stephanie McMahon, Tamina Snuka, or Bayley? Wow, really good question because all three of those feuds could have been good. Tamina Snuka, I understand why you would put that on there, but because it makes sense from a storyline standpoint. Because it's weird because AJ left TV right after WrestleMania last year, and Tamina, I mean, they were a unit for about 6 months, 6 or 7 months by that point. AJ leaves, Tamina's by herself, and before AJ got back, Tamina got injured or something, and she's been out ever since. I think she just recently came back at a live event, and she hasn't been on TV at all, though. So I don't know when she returns or what. Maybe she returns tonight or next week. I'm not really sure. But they never really wrapped up the angle between her and Tamina. I didn't really care to see the feud because I was fearing that they were going to make Tamina a babyface, which I think would have been the death of her. Even if she comes back as a babyface, she is so much better as a heel. I'm not really a Tamina fan, but she's so much better as a heel, though. So if it was a face AJ versus heel Tamina, would have been a good feud. And I'm kind of disappointed we didn't get to see it. Not as disappointed as the other ones, though. The Bayley feud would have been great. At the very least, we got to see the match between the two on an episode of NXT, I think in 2013. It was a good match. It didn't last very long, but it was a good match. And even AJ endorsed Bayley. I know they're good friends behind the scenes. AJ endorsed Bayley in her final match on Raw on the night after WrestleMania. She was wearing a Bayley I'm a Hugger t-shirt or something. So that was cool. So I'm disappointed again we didn't get to see that feud. But the feud, easily hands down, that I'm disappointed we did not get to see was against Stephanie McMahon. I mean, I wrote an article about this right after Royal Rumble this year saying that Stephanie and AJ needed to happen at WrestleMania. And I don't want to say it became more likely after the whole give Divas a chance thing and AJ called out Stephanie on Twitter. If it was a work, it would have given me faith, but I don't think it was a work. But, still, that would have been really, really cool to do at WrestleMania, and it made sense, too. AJ is anti-authority. I doubt the fact they would have brought up that they, I very much doubt the fact they would have brought up that AJ was CM Punk's husband. They have yet to mention, they have never mentioned on WWE TV, and likely never will, of course. She's gone anyway, so it doesn't matter. Stephanie is the wife of Triple H. So the match that was supposed to happen last year, Triple H versus CM Punk, we get the wives beating it out, or that actually sounds a lot more wrong than it should. They have them battling it out, AJ and Stephanie, the wives, the spouses of the people that were supposed to face each other last year, and they can build off that. And even if they didn't, they have a lot of history in each of the in-ring encounters that they've had over the last couple of years in 2013 and 2014 respectively. They had a lot of good chemistry together on screen. I'm very disappointed we were not able to see that feud. I mean, I don't want to say I would have rather. I mean, at SummerSlam, it made sense when they did the whole Brie and Stephanie thing, and I thought that was a really good match too, a good feud. And then, then AJ faced Paige that night too. So we had two women's titles or two big women's matches. So that being said, I mean, I'm not disappointed we didn't get it then, but I feel like it should have happened at WrestleMania. I mean, the tag team match was good, but it would have been awesome if we got AJ versus Stephanie. It made sense. AJ's anti-authority. She wants to stick it to Stephanie after the whole give Divas a chance thing. Would have been great. Didn't come to fruition. I'm very disappointed of all the feeds that we didn't get to see with AJ. That was the one that they should have done and didn't. So, his next question, do you think Curtis Axel will have similar success to that of Damien Sandow with Axelmania? I think he already has. I'm very pleasantly surprised he's been able to get over the Axelmania shtick. He's gotten it over big time. I mean, the guy is over like crazy. He's over like Rover recently. People pop when he comes out. The whole post-WrestleMania crowd got a huge kick out of it. It's great to see. He's calling Extreme Rules Axtreme Rules, which is awesome. I don't know how far it's going to go, but for right now, it's going on a lot longer than I thought it would. And he's making the most out of it, and he's running with the popularity. I don't know if they would give him a championship again, like the U.S. or IC title, and he shouldn't. He's more of a comedy guy at this point than he is a serious competitor. As a serious competitor, as much as I would love to see him succeed, he's just not over. He has shown charisma in this comic relief character. And like you said, will he have similar success to Damien Sandow? I don't know, to that same success where Damien Sandow was like the most over guy in the entire show a couple months ago. I don't know if it's going to get to that same level. For what it's been, though, in the last couple of months with Axelmania, it's been over like crazy. And it's great to see him getting over, and I think he won't have similar success. He is having similar success right now. It hasn't led to him winning matches or anything like that. I think he's over because he's losing. He's a lovable loser. People want to see him succeed. They're selling Axelmania t-shirts now in WWE Shop, which is awesome. Glad to see them finally doing that. Like I said, I don't see him becoming a huge star out of this, but for right now, for what it's worth, he's on the right place in the card. He could be treated a little bit better, like losing to R-Truth. Give me a fucking break. Like, I get losing to Neville and Cena and all these other guys, but losing to R-Truth, really? Come on, R-Truth. That's like the lowest of the low right there. But still, though, I feel like, yeah, he is having similar success to Damien Mizdow. He's crazy like over with the fans. Something that was supposed to be throwaway, he turned it into gold. And he's made it a lot of fun to watch every single week. So I would absolutely say that they have had similar successes in that respect. His next question, do you have any idea why Paige has stopped using the page turner? I don't know exactly why, but I don't even know when she stopped using it. Probably because it didn't look as effective as her other finishers do. I know she has the Rampage GDT now, which is brutal. And then the PTO, the Page Tap Out. I know that Nakano, the Bull Nakano move, I think, who she adopted it from, that's a brutal-looking submission, too. The page turner, I didn't really mind it. I thought it was a good finisher, but, after she not missed it, but it just didn't look great when she did it on AJ when she won the title the night after WrestleMania. Like, she barely connected, and people shit all over it. And it wasn't long after that she turned it into a signature, and I don't even know if she does it anymore at all. So again, I didn't really mind the move. I thought it was a good move, but I could see where people, where the argument lies, not it being effective or looking effective, since there are other finishers that are 10 times more brutal. Next question. If New Day are turning heel, given that they are already over as heels, should they keep their current gimmick? Absolutely not. I talked about this before, but no. No, they should not keep their current gimmick. The only reason people are booing them right now is not because they're good heels, it's because they're shitty as fuck. Like, I love Big E, love Xavier, love Kofi, but the gimmick is so goddamn bad. They have to change that at some point. So, I mean, just because people are booing it doesn't make them great heels. The same thing happened with Adam Rose. People got sick of him, they started booing him, but it didn't really matter because the gimmick went nowhere. He was a babyface one week, he was a heel the next. And people just stopped giving a shit. That's what people are going to do to the New Day. They're not going to cheer. They're not going to boo. They're just not going to care. So they have to have them snap at some point and, turn into the dominant heels they deserve to be and just go apeshit on everybody. Not Nation of Domination, per se, 2.0 technically. But, just have them go heel, just be ruthless heels as a three-man group, and it would be awesome for all three guys in the WWE. So, but keeping the current gimmick is a no-no. It sucks, and just because it's getting booed doesn't make it great. So, no, I would absolutely have them scrap the current gimmick in favor of something a little bit more ruthless. Moving on to the Twitter questions. At Eli, the big guy, his question was, would you rather have Dean Ambrose gather more steam by winning as a babyface or have him turn heel? Probably have him gain more steam by winning more matches as a babyface right now, if only because he's still over like shit. I know as a heel, that's where the real money is. He's going to work 10 times better as a heel. He's still a great babyface, but he's a natural heel, and he will work exceptionally well in that role when he eventually turns. But he's still over right now. He's still selling merch. He's like I know this is like 3 or 4 or 5 months ago, but he sold, I think, like one of the most, his t-shirt was like the most sold item over Black Friday weekend back in November, over Thanksgiving weekend. So that says something. I know, that was out of time when he was still main eventing, and he's not really doing much now. Aside from the whole feud with Luke Harper, but, he's still very much over. He gets one of the loudest reactions on the show every single time he comes out, so they shouldn't turn him right now. That's what happened with Ryback. He was still over like fuck when they turned him back in 2013, and it didn't work. After a while, people didn't boo him, they just stopped giving a shit, and he wasn't good anymore. So that's why I'm glad they turned him back babyface just recently. With Dean, though, I would wait to turn him heel, maybe until it makes sense, until you have the right feud lined up. But, I just have him win more matches. He needs to win a match on fucking pay-per-view. It's nuts how long they've gone without having him win on pay-per-view. The last pay-per-view he won at was Payback, and that wasn't even a singles match. Payback in June of last year, and that was almost 10 months ago. So hopefully he will win at Extreme Rules. I don't know if it's official yet or will be by tonight's Raw, that he should be facing Luke Harper at Extreme Rules in some sort of matchup. But I would keep him babyface for the foreseeable future and then turn him down the line. At Big Bird 432, their question was, with Taz leaving TNA, do you see him coming back to WWE anytime soon, and in what capacity? Already answered the question. But I could see him coming back to WWE. Maybe at some point, like I said, not too likely right now, especially because, and someone mentioned this too, and I've been thinking about this since the news broke, but I forgot to mention this before. But, he went over to WWE about 2 years ago. His TNA contract was coming to an end, and he went over to WWE, and he was teasing it a lot on his social media accounts. And then he said, that he was going back to WWE. Because he said, Raw's in the Brooklyn area, I have to, go check it out, wink, wink. And then I guess he went over there to go see if WWE had any interest in him, and they had really no role for him whatsoever. So then he went crawling back to TNA for the next 2 years. So had there been interest, he would have been there already. And I don't know if there's any interest now. And they have so many commentators, on Raw and SmackDown. Like I said before, it wouldn't even be a good fit anyway because they would turn him into absolute shit. So, I don't even know if they have a role for him, but it would be cool to see him on Tough Enough. From what I understand, he was in the early seasons. I haven't seen any of the early seasons of Tough Enough, but from what I understand, he was a part of the show. So it would be cool to see him bring him back in time for that show. So I don't know how likely it is that he's coming back, but it would be cool if he was to come back in that capacity as a trainer on the up and coming revival of Tough Enough. Next question from @SwagZio. Their question was, when Chris Jericho comes back to WWE, who should he feud with? Wrote an article about this a couple months ago, but I feel like the number one feud Jericho should have before he retires or when he comes back, whatever, should be with Daniel Bryan. They had a couple of matches, one on Daniel Bryan's first night in February of 2010 on the first ever episode of NXT in the main event, and they would have another match a couple years later on Raw. I think it was the Raw, almost exactly 3 years later on Raw in February 2013, the Raw before Elimination Chamber, and again, a really, really good match. Both matches that Jericho won. And, with Daniel Bryan being the inaugural WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the first one to merge. Actually, no, he did not merge the two belts. That was Randy Orton, excuse me, I apologize. But still, I feel like Daniel Bryan does have a legitimate claim, or Jericho anyway. As world champion, it made sense with Jericho saying, I was the first ever inaugural WWE World Heavyweight Champion. I'm the first ever undisputed champion. I want to go back for my title. And Jericho, I don't know if he deserves one more run with the World Championship. I think he does, personally. But it would be cool to see him back in one more main event feud. I thought the CM Punk feud was great, and he hasn't been in the main event since. But yeah, I would definitely do a Daniel Bryan feud. I mean, there's a couple of other guys. I don't know if I wrote an article about it. I think I did last summer. That you could do feuds with. We already saw the Bray Wyatt one, but Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. All these new guys that are coming up right now, I could see Jericho feuding with. But first and foremost, though, a feud with Daniel Bryan would be kick-ass, and that's the first feud I want to see him take part in when he comes back as a babyface, heel, whatever. Would be awesome. And second question, should Rusev win the Money in the Bank ladder match this year? I don't think so. I mean, I don't even know how hot he's going to be by that time. I know it's only 2 months away, but if he loses at Extreme Rules on Sunday, which I'm thinking he will, I think his time as a top tier guy is past. Unfortunately, I don't think it should. I think the guy's really, really good. He's got himself over. There's no real reason to make him a mid-carder again or like an undercarder. But I don't ever see him being like a world champion, though. Even if he was to win and then cash in unsuccessfully, it's such a waste, especially now that we only have one briefcase. So, I don't even see Rusev ever being a world champion. No matter how I like him, no matter how much I like him, I don't see him having that potential of being a future world champ. So, no, I wouldn't give him the briefcase. So, I don't even know who I would give it to. I think I answered that last week. I would give it to maybe Rhodes or Barrett or Ambrose even. Not Rusev. I don't think Rusev's a future world champ, so I think that'd just be a waste. At Chris Krieger, his question was, what's your favorite secondary pay-per-view, i.e. non-Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, etc.? If you asked me when I first became a fan, oddly enough, I would have told you Night of Champions. I know that pay-per-view hasn't really meant much in recent years, but I thought Night of Champions was the shit when I first got into wrestling. And maybe it's because I just love the concept of every title being on the line. And it was one of the first pay-per-views that I was a fan for back in early 2008 and like the mid of 2008 when I started watching in April. Night of Champions was the pay-per-view in June. I love the concept. Now, the titles, there's a lot less titles than there were back then. And the titles don't really mean as much as they did back then. Even then, the titles didn't mean as much. But even, 7 years later, Night of Champions, we see the titles defended in almost every pay-per-view for the most part anyway. So the concept of there being every match being a championship match doesn't mean anything. And there's some matches they throw in non-title matches, and it doesn't. Like I said, it's not the same. So probably not more so Night of Champions anymore. Still an enjoyable pay-per-view, but not one of my favorites anymore. I'd probably have to go with Money in the Bank. I think that a lot of people are going to tell you that because even though I would love to see the match back at WrestleMania, we kind of got a glimpse of that this year with the IC title ladder match. The pay-per-view itself has never been bad. Like I wasn't a huge fan of the most recent installment. I thought for the most part it was boring. Part of that might have been due to the fact that I was watching like the next day and I was watching like for 3 hours in front of my laptop like, oh, when will this end? Because the undercard wasn't exciting. The two ladder matches were really good, the rest of the card, I couldn't even tell you what was on it because it just wasn't that good or memorable anyway. It wasn't terrible, just boring. But all the other shows, though, I ordered Money in the Bank 2013, an amazing show. I was on vacation for the 2012 show, and I still watched it, and a great show. 2011, my favorite pay-per-view of all time, and 2010 was a good show, too. So I'd probably have to go with Money in the Bank, and it's always exciting to see who's going to win the briefcase. It's always exciting every year, so I'd probably have to say Money in the Bank is my favorite secondary pay-per-view. TLC, too. I mean, it's not very much a popular opinion. But TLC, along with Extreme Rules, too. I forgot to mention Extreme Rules. I didn't write that down for some reason. But Extreme Rules and TLC, even though a lot of people don't like the gimmick pay-per-views, especially TLC, because you shouldn't hold a TLC match at the same time every year. It just kind of diminishes the value of the match. I feel like both pay-per-views have been consistently good to great for the last 6-7 years. All the installments have been really, really good, especially Extreme Rules, and I'm hoping for the same thing this year, too. But those pay-per-views are always awesome. I always enjoy them. But my favorite secondary pay-per-view would have to be Money in the Bank. Next question from @Thomas_B96. His question was, with all due respect to Kane and Big Show, does WWE really expect Roman Reigns to get better working with them? Do they expect it? I guess they do if they keep on doing the match. Is it the right thing to do? Absolutely not. I mean, we've seen these matches time and time again for the last 3 or 4 or 5 months, and they never get any better. Big Show versus Roman Reigns. I mean, Big Show, I'm not a Big Show fan anyway. I think that goes without saying. I think a lot of people know that about me. But I just don't see what value he holds in 2015. Am I saying he should retire? Yeah, I am kind of saying that. But I feel like there are other roles for him in WWE that don't see him in the main event, much less an active competitor, but at the very least, not a main event guy. Look, you fucking kidding me? They don't have any other top-tier main event fresh faces on the heel side that you can't push instead. Like, that to me is just ridiculous. But regardless, though, I think, do they expect it? I mean, they expect a lot of things. Vince is out of touch with the product. I mean, that kind of is obvious. But I don't know what they expect to get out of this feud. I don't know why they're doing it for the 9th millionth time. To their credit, they did a nice job of building it up last week, and the last man standing stipulation might make it a little bit better, and someone else has a question about that, and I'll get to that in a minute. Maybe it might make it worse. I really have no idea. But, do they expect it? I guess so, but it's not the right move because it really does not get any better. It's not benefiting Roman Reigns. It's sure as hell not getting him any more over than he is right now. So it is kind of a waste of time, in my opinion. They're 2 seasoned vets, but no one gives 2 shits about them right now, so the feud is not going to pay off in the end. Next question from Only One MDB. This question was, do you want Breaking Point to return? There's been a lot of hate for the Breaking Point pay-per-view. A lot of people said it was dumb. I never really had a problem with it. I was a fan at the time, but I never watched it. I actually have to go back and watch it in its entirety. But from what I've seen from it, from the results, I didn't think it was that bad of a show. I thought it was a decent show. And I thought the stipulation of every match, or the main event matches being submission-based, with one being submission, or I quit, or falls count anymore submission, I thought that was pretty fucking cool. I know you can't do that every year, but I thought it was really cool. I thought Cena and Orton had a really good match from what I've seen. The submission match between CM Punk and Undertaker was not really that good. That was kind of a shitty of a match, a piece of shit of a match. But I really enjoyed the tag team match between DX and Legacy, the submission count anywhere matchup. It was tag team rules too. First time ever, never been done before, never been done since. I thought that was a really cool concept, and they really made the most of that match, and it put over Legacy in a huge way. So, I wouldn't really mind it being brought back. I didn't really, hate on the show too much. I thought it was a decent concept, a decent show. But I guess WWE doesn't think so. I guess the buy rate wasn't that good for them to, get away and to get rid of it. And the pay-per-views we have now are fine for the most part. We don't need more gimmick pay-per-views. If anything, we need less. But if it was to return, I wouldn't have a huge problem with it. At Cody Collier 37, his question was, do you think Daniel Bryan versus Bad News Barrett will happen at Extreme Rules with the concussion that Daniel has? I mean, I guess we'll find out tomorrow night on Raw, so if you're watching this before Raw, you know as much as I do. If you're watching this after Raw, maybe we find out more tonight. There's a lot of different sources with people saying, within WWE, saying he doesn't have a concussion. There's been reports by Dave Meltzer saying that he is, reliable. More often than not, a wrestling journalist saying that he does have a concussion, he's banged up, whatever. I still think the match is going to happen anyway. He might be just banged up from the tour. And I don't know if his health... I mean, I think it might be just blown out of proportion. I think it might be just a minor thing, and it might not be something huge. But then again, I mean, there were rumors of his health deteriorating around this point last year, and he had to end up dropping the belt. So I guess we'll find out either tonight or in the next week or so. I expect the match to still happen. I don't know if they'll give it a stipulation, because I don't know if they want to risk further damaging his health. Although I would love to see it with like a 2 out of 3 count falls match or something, a stipulation like that. I think it still will happen. Maybe I'll eat my words tonight on Raw. I still think it will happen because I don't know if his health is in that bad of a shape that they have to cancel the match and strip the title from him, which I'll get to in a minute, which is actually the very next question. But I still think the match will happen, but I guess we'll find out more tonight on Raw. At RJ_Marcel, my co-host from Wrestling Radio, of course, same on that very same topic. His question was, who should hold the Intercontinental title if Daniel Bryan is to lose it or vacate it due to injury? So that's been a pretty popular question the last couple of days since the news broke that he might be injured. Again, I don't see him dropping the belt or the match not happening at Extreme Rules. I don't know if his health is in that bad of a shape. But if it is, in the case that it is, and he has to drop the championship, he should not drop the belt to Bad News Barrett. I love Bad News Barrett, but the guy's been booked so shitty in all of his reigns as Intercontinental Champion, for the most part, maybe with the exception of last year. But for the most part, all of his reigns as Intercontinental Champion sucked because he lost every single non-title match that he was a part of. So I would not give it back to Bad News Barrett at any point in the near future, if ever again. It's not his fault, it's just the way they book him, and it's a curse around his waist. And it's finally starting to mean something too, so I wouldn't diminish that by giving it back to a loser. I wouldn't give it like to Luke Harper either, because again, I like Luke Harper, but they booked him so badly as champion for the month that he held it that it wouldn't really do anything. Ziggler, been there, done that. Maybe Sheamus. I wouldn't have a huge problem with Sheamus because I think he's kind of come back with a head of steam. We haven't seen him as Intercontinental Champion before. He finally means something again too. So Sheamus would be my #1 candidate, and then you can always do Bryan versus Sheamus for the belt. They always have great matches. We've seen the feud a million times. But their matches are always great, so you could do Daniel Bryan in chase mode versus Sheamus for the Intercontinental title. That would be great. I'd be completely fine with that. And Bray Wyatt, someone brought up a couple days ago. I'd be fine with that. I know RJ's been clamoring for that for a while, and I would really have no issue with it. Bray Wyatt isn't doing anything right now. I have no idea who his next feud is going to be with, or who he's targeting right now in his most recent promos. But he's never held gold. I mean, an argument can be made that he never should hold gold. I mean, he could be like this generation's version of Jake the Snake Roberts. I mean, should he be a world champion? I could see him as world champion. He doesn't need to be world champion, but he should hold at least some championship in WWE, whether it be a tag team title or a mid-card title. And I think him as Intercontinental Champion is Wyatt, although he lost at WrestleMania, he still means something, even though the fact that their match at WrestleMania between Taker and Wyatt was a complete waste of time, because Wyatt is still calling himself the new face of fear, so I don't know what point, what purpose that matchup served, but nevertheless, I would be totally down for Barrett or Sheamus as Intercontinental Champion. Neville, I feel like it's too soon, so I would definitely go with either Sheamus or Bray Wyatt as the new Intercontinental Champion if Bryan had to vacate it or be stripped of it due to injury. At Daniel Cabeza 59, he's got a couple questions here. First one being, do you think that Daniel Bryan will retire anytime soon because of the injuries? I mean, that thought crossed my mind recently, but if the injuries are being blown out of proportion, they're not as bad as some people are portraying them to be, then it won't be that case and it won't be that bad. Hopefully not. I don't want to see Daniel Bryan retire. No one wants to see Daniel Bryan retire for the most part, of course, unless you count as haters or whatever. But it's a realistic possibility. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but it's a realistic possibility with all the injuries and all the health issues he's been facing over the last year or so. So there is a possibility. I don't think so. Like I said the same thing when he was out for so long, and it was unknown as to whether he would ever get better, and he did. I didn't get that feeling he would retire, and he didn't. Although he came close on that episode of Raw, and he cut that very emotional promo, and he came close. Yeah, I don't think he's going to retire. I mean, I would hate to be wrong in this case. I don't want to see Daniel Bryan retire. He has a lot of years left in him if he can keep himself healthy. I don't think he will retire, but I think there might be a chance of it, sadly. His next question, if WWE makes Adrian Neville a jobber, would we get you making a rant out of it? I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, Daniel brought up on Twitter recently that I don't really rant as much, although my Twitter name is WrestleRant. I mean, I don't like to rant. I don't like to go on, like, tirades. Just say, like, fuck this company. Like, sometimes I'll say, like, I hate wrestling, jokingly, of course. I'm still going to be a wrestling fan regardless. I mean, someone asked me a while ago, what's going to make you stop watching wrestling? Like, is there any one thing that will make you stop watching? And I said, no, I don't think so. I don't know if I'd make a rant out of it, but I will be extremely disappointed And yet again, not that surprised, because I feel like Neville will only go so far in WWE. I've said that time and time again. It's not a reflection on his talent, but rather how WWE sees people his size. And it's not like a Daniel Bryan case either, because Neville really can't talk all that well. He doesn't really have that great of mic skills. They've gotten better, but they're still not great. And his small stature kind of plays a factor in how much he'll succeed in WWE, how much success he will have. So, again, I would love to see him go the distance and have a great run in WWE on the main roster and all these great matches. They can't continue to have him lose every week. Like, strong showings and defeat is a good thing, but he can't keep on doing the same thing every week. At some point, they have to give this guy a couple of wins. So, yeah, if they make him a jobber, yes, he will. I will be very disappointed. I don't know if I'll rant about it, probably. If he loses on Superstars to R-Truth, then I'll be fucking pissed. But until that day comes, I'll keep an open mind, and hopefully, and I am hoping that they treat him properly and like he only deserves to be. The guy's extremely talented. He's an amazing athlete and deserves to be properly showcased on the main roster in WWE. Next question, would Daniel Bryan be the same wrestler as he was before the injuries? That's a really good question. I know there were a lot of rumors when he came back that he would be switching up his style, not be as aggressive in the ring due to the neck injury. And despite those rumors, he's still as crazy as ever in the ring. He had a great, brutal showing at WrestleMania in the ladder match. He's still doing the headbutt. He's still doing all the shit that he was doing before. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I really have no idea. But he really has not deviated from his original style at all. And even Daniel Bryan has said in interviews he would not change his style, regardless of his health. He doesn't care. He's not going to change. And maybe all the recent health issues will make him think otherwise. But he really hasn't changed his in-ring style at all. I mean, maybe he will make it to like a more of a brawling thing like Stone Cold was after he had his neck injury back in 1997, 98. I think it was 97, excuse me. But, yeah, I mean, right now he really hasn't changed his style at all. Maybe eventually he will have to, but for right now, if you take a Daniel Bryan match from now, from even 2 or even a year ago, it really has not changed all that much because he really has not deviated from his original style, despite the orders of the doctors and officials, whatever, to elongate his health for the better. The next question comes from @Digabas, Degatabas. I apologize if I mispronounced it, so I spelled it out just in case. But their question was, who are the top 5 non-American or non-WWE American-based wrestlers to watch? So I don't know if you counted TNA and Ring of Honor or just indie guys. You didn't really specify, but if we are counting Ring of Honor and TNA, I didn't want to hold the entire list to be Ring of Honor and TNA guys, but I did just do one from each company. For TNA, Ethan Carter III, I already mentioned him before, but TNA has done right by him since he arrived on the scene a year and a half ago. He's been undefeated, properly showcased. He's one of the bright, shining stars that TNA has right now. So Ethan Carter III is one to watch out for in TNA. Ring of Honor, Adam Cole, the guy's a great athlete when he was in his heel run, when I was watching Ring of Honor last summer, and what I see of him right now. He carries himself like a professional. He belongs in WWE. He screams WWE to me anyway. He's one to watch in Ring of Honor and in WWE if he eventually comes over. And 3 other people, these are all indie talents. These are all people that are on the independent scene. Matt Taven isn't. And I'll start with Matt Taven. He's in Ring of Honor right now. But I've been watching his work for the last, I think, 6 years now. My first ever he was not actually my first ever independent wrestling match, but he was on my first ever independent wrestling show. Northeast Wrestling, May 2009. I think he faced Romeo Roselli or something like that. But, I've been following his work for a very long time. The guy has improved leaps and bounds from that point in time. I think his wrestling career started around that time, so I was there for like the early stages of his career. And he worked so great as a heel. Because the babyface in Ring of Honor, people weren't really, kind of catching on, weren't really following what he was doing. But as a heel, I think he is amazing. So Matt Taven, I feel like belongs in WWE. I think he's a great talent. Again, maybe I'm biased because I've been following for so long, but Matt Taven is one to watch. As for the other 2 people, first one being Antonio the Promise Thomas. Yeah, I got to know his work from New England Championship Wrestling. He was also in WWE about 10 years ago, a part of the Heartthrobs, along with Romeo Roselli, as I think just Antonio. And, back then you didn't really get to see much of his work because he really wasn't on TV all that much. But seeing his singles work on the independent scene, the guy is fantastic. I know he's getting up there in age. He might be like 30-something years old now. Might be too late for WWE to take a look at him. But If you're not already exposed to his work, definitely do so. The guy's a great worker. He's very old school, a traditionalist. He reminds me of like a current Bob Backlund in a way, from the way he wrestles and the way he looks especially. He's a very old school wrestler. Maybe that's why I take a liking to him, because I'm a fan of old school wrestling, just old school things in general. And last one being, and anyone, RJ knows this and a few other people from my Twitter, the one-man thrill ride Jimmy Preston is absolutely one to watch. The guy is phenomenal. You can find him on Twitter at ThrillRideCW. My brother actually showed me a promo of his in late 2013, the alumni baseball game. You can find it on YouTube, his most popular video. And the guy's taken off on social media since then, on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and whatever. He's got awesome merchandise. The guy's so incredibly entertaining, and he's a good worker, too. You can only catch his promos and stuff on YouTube. He doesn't really show much of his matches and stuff, but the guy is an amazing worker, an amazing entertainer. WWE needs to get a hold of him. I know Tough Enough is coming up, and I know he's already applied and whatever, but the guy belongs in WWE. I don't know why they wouldn't pick him up. He knows how to carry himself. He's built his own following. He's a good worker, an amazing entertainer, an amazing athlete. So there's no reason why he should not belong in WWE. So Jimmy Preston, if you're not already familiar with his work, go out and find him on YouTube, especially YouTube, and on Twitter at ThrillRideCW, on Facebook at the one-man Thrill Ride Jimmy Preston. The guy is certainly one to watch for the foreseeable future. If he ends up on Tough Enough, I'm marking the hell out, because that's where he belongs. Up next, the Average Grunt. He was the one that sent in the questions last week. No. These were the most recent questions. Excuse me. He asked. The questions of his from last week were from the week before. I'm getting myself confused here. Anyway, though, at the Average Grunt's got a couple questions. First one being, what do you think will happen first? Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn winning a title in the WWE, or WWE returning to Canada for a pay-per-view? I know you're Canadian. I know you're a Canadian. You are from Canada, of course. You are Canadian. So are many of my other viewers and followers and stuff like that. Canada is awesome. I'm not just sucking up to you guys, but Canada has always been an awesome wrestling audience, and I'm just shocked that WWE doesn't go there more often. I know they go there maybe once or twice a year for a Raw or SmackDown or whatever, but they need to hold the pay-per-view there. You guys haven't had a pay-per-view since Breaking Point. Speaking of Breaking Point, back in September of 2009. That was 6 years ago. There was a point in time when WWE would hold pay-per-views in Canada once a fucking year. It's been 6 years. So I don't know why that is, but you guys deserve a pay-per-view. And it needs to happen sooner rather than later. But yeah, that being said, what will happen first? Owens or Zayn winning a title, or WWE returning to Canada for a pay-per-view? There has to be some reason why they're not going back there. I don't know what it is. Maybe it has to do with attendance. I doubt it, because WWE always does huge numbers in terms of attendance and record sales and whatever every time they cross the border over to Canada. So, I don't know. I don't know what the issue is. It's been 6 years. I don't know when the next time it will be before we get a pay-per-view in Canada. But at least we know it won't be for the next year, because WWE has already mapped out all their shows for the next year. And I think in that year, you will see Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens as a champion in the WWE. So I'll probably have to go with Owens or Zayn winning a title first. A very good question, although it's unfortunate, because I think WWE does deserve, or Canada does deserve, a WWE pay-per-view sooner rather than later. It's been too long. His next question, if Daniel Bryan had to retire and can only have one more match, who should it be against and when should it happen? So if he had to retire like tonight on Raw, he announces his retirement, and he had to have one more match. I know like he would have to have the match at, Extreme Rules against Barrett, but I would scrap that. Like, who cares? I mean, I think the match is going to be great, but that should not be his last match. If he had to have one more opponent, I mean, like ideally I would do it at WrestleMania, but it's not like he's going to announce his retirement tonight and then come back for WrestleMania to do his retirement match. It's just not the way it works. But that's when I would do it at WrestleMania. But it's not going to happen that way. That said, though, if he had to have one more match, who should it be against? Seth Rollins. I mean, I know we've seen the match before, but you haven't won back that championship just one more time. We never really got to see the feud, but you build it up as Bryan's last ever matchup, his last ever shot at the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, getting his rematch that he never ever got for the WWE World Heavyweight title. And then he faces Seth Rollins, and he beats him. He goes out, he retires as world champion. So I think that'd be amazing. Either that or Hideo Itami, is kind of an oddball pick, but they have so much history over in the Japan circuit. Hideo Itami, I think Bryan actually stole his finishing maneuver, the running knee or whatever. So they have a lot of history there too, and that's a match that I would love to see. I think it would be fantastic. So, and he puts over Hideo Itami on his way out. So either Tommy or Rollins, I think, would be great final opponents for Daniel Bryan if he had to retire like in the near future or whatever. At Unsolved22, his question was, what are your two top favorite WWE Steel Cage matches? I mean, there's been so many, it's hard to say, like, what are my top two? Like, when you asked that question, I actually had to go back and, like, look at some of the Steel Cage matches from recent memory. And it's hard to say, like, as I always say, it's hard to say that a match, like a Steel Cage match from 1998 was my favorite because I wasn't a fan at the time. Although I may have seen it on the network, it's hard to say it was my favorite because I wasn't a fan at that time. So, that said, these only constitute for the years that I've been a wrestling fan for, now over 7 years as of last Tuesday, April 14th, 2008. The two that came to mind, Cena, Morrison, Miz, people just called it good, but I thought that was an awesome match from the 2011 Extreme Rules pay-per-view. It was really cool to see Morrison and Miz, former tag team partners, turn enemies, in the main event of a WWE pay-per-view for the World Championship with John Cena. So it was surreal in that respect. But and the match itself was also really, really good. Cena came out on top. It was like, oh, Cena's champion again. It was bound to happen eventually, the first time in 10 months. And after the matchup, he announced that they had caught Osama bin Laden. Like, that was an amazing night, you know, for the States and for WWE or whatever. So it was a great moment. So I would have to go with that matchup as one of my favorites anyway. And the other being Jeff Hardy versus CM Punk. It was the SmackDown after SummerSlam 2009, Jeff Hardy's final WWE match. A lot of emotion, a lot of great action. Jeff Hardy putting over CM Punk in his absence and cutting a great promo afterwards saying that it's not goodbye forever, it's only goodbye for now. So those are the two top favorite Steel Cage matches of mine. I'm sure there's others. I enjoyed Jericho versus Wyatt last year. You know, more often than not, I really don't care for Steel Cage matches because we always get so much fucking interference. You know, from like I hated like Cena versus Wyatt last year and stuff like that. But, yeah, those are my top two favorite for right now. I also enjoyed Jericho versus Batista. I think it might have been like November of 08, but those are some of my favorite Steel Cage matches in WWE from the time I've been a fan for. His next question, will the Roman Reigns versus Big Show last man standing match put you to sleep? Very likely. I mean, although the stipulation makes sense, and I like it for that respect, like the Kiss Me R shit doesn't make any sense, that's why I hate it. At least the last man standing match stipulation makes sense. Doesn't mean I like it, though. And the matches they have already aren't really any good. And I'm sure a match like a last man standing match with the right components, with the right factors, with the right wrestlers in there, with the right wrestlers in those matches, they can be great to watch. But with the wrong wrestlers, they can be very, very boring. And I'm getting the feeling that we're going to get one of those, sleeper over matches between Big Show and Roman Reigns. I don't mean a sleeper pick in terms of we sleep on it now and it ends up being great, and I hope it will be as good as possible. But I mean sleeper in terms of, like you said, it will put me to sleep. I'm not a fan of the feud, not a fan of the match. It could very well be a very boring match, but as long as I give Roman Reigns his win and get it over with, that's all I'm content with. His next question, what has been your favorite WWE match so far this year? There's been a lot of good matches. Really, really enjoyed Brock versus Roman at WrestleMania. I enjoyed what it meant in the booking of it more so than the match itself. So that's got to be up there. But still, to this day, the best wrestling match that I've seen this year for WWE has to be Cena, Lesnar, and Rollins from the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Just a phenomenal 5-star match all the way around. The finish was just fantastic. So that has to be my favorite match so far this year. And it's only April, so I'm sure we'll get some more great matches in the year to come. Like last year, my favorite match was Adrian Neville versus Sami Zayn. And that didn't happen until like the final 2 or 3 weeks of the year. So you never really know what's going to happen for the remainder of 2015. His last question, what is your favorite Big Show match? So obviously I'm not the biggest Big Show fan in the world. If anything, I'm the exact opposite. And don't get me wrong either. A lot of people mistake my hatred for Big Show as me shitting on the Big Show, saying he's terrible. What I don't like about the Big Show is the fact that he's in the main event scene every week in 2015. It should not be that way. If he's putting over other people, I'm okay with that. But if he's in the main event competing for titles and shit, there's something wrong in that. There's something wrong with that picture, and that should not be happening in 2015. Like with him winning the Battle Royal, why did that need to happen? Like, was that really that necessary? You know? So that's what I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of his booking more so than him as a person. But anyway, I'm not, more of his recent matches I really haven't cared for, like the match with Orton at Survivor Series a couple years ago was a fucking train wreck. The main event, I think it was 2013, the Survivor Series, that was terrible. My favorite Big Show match, though, And the only truly great Big Show match that I have seen anyway, since he came back in 2008, was against Sheamus at Hell in a Cell. I thought that match was among one of the best matches of fucking 2012. I thought it was great. The emotion, the in-ring action, Big Show winning the world title clean, beating Sheamus, who had been champion for like 6 or 7 months. Everything about it I thought was awesome. So that has to be hands down my favorite Big Show match ever. Final 2 questions here. First one being from @CodyCollier37. I should have put these in with their other questions, but anyway, his question was, do you think it's a missed opportunity that we didn't get to see an AJ Lee versus Tamina Snuka feud? I talked about this before, but I'm more disappointed that we didn't get to see AJ versus Stephanie. If anything, that should have been the money match, the money feud that we should have seen. AJ versus Tamina, I wasn't dying to see the feud. I would not have cared for it if Tamina was the face and AJ was the heel. It had to be the other way around. It had to be AJ as the face and Tamina as the heel, and they should have done that by bringing back Tamina, but I guess she might have still been hurt when AJ was brought back earlier this year. And it would have made sense from a storyline standpoint, given all their history from late 2013, from a year and a half ago. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not really that disappointed. I'm more disappointed that we didn't get to see the match we didn't get to see her versus Stephanie. And I wouldn't even call AJ versus Tamina a missed opportunity, if only because they never really got the opportunity to do it. I'm glad that Paige was the one to take the title off of AJ and not Tamina. Like, that to me was far too predictable. I didn't care to see it. So I'm glad that didn't happen, but when AJ came back in June, Tamina was gone. And even when she came back again in January, she was still gone. So it's not like they were both on the roster at the same time. They never did the feud. They just never really got the chance because they were never in the same place at the same time. So I wouldn't really call it a missed opportunity. I'm slightly disappointed, but it wasn't supposed to be like a great match anyway, that Stephanie versus AJ would have been. Not from an in-ring standpoint, from the history standpoint, though, and the great chemistry that they would have created. Final question comes from @TheAverageGrunt. His question was, what do you think about Tye Dillinger from NXT? Do you think he has potential? And I mean, I've talked about this here on the show before. I think Tye Dillinger is great. I think Tye Dillinger has a very bright future if they treat him properly. The sad thing is that I don't think they will. I think of the two, of Jason Jordan and him, they see more things in Jason Jordan. And here's the thing. I think I talked about this last week here on the show, but I have yet to see anything from Jason Jordan that will impress me. The guy's a good athlete from what I've seen, but he just doesn't have any character. No charisma, no anything. Like if they put him in the Shoot Nation stable with, I don't know, Chad Gable or Sawyer Fulton, whoever else is in that stable that they're trying to do right now, I get it, but as a singles guy, I could not care less for him. I think Tye Dillinger has that charisma. We've seen it in kind of small spurts over the course of his NXT run over the last 2 years. He can make for a very, very good heel, and they just never really give him the chance to shine. I'm hoping Jason Jordan proves me wrong and ends up having a really good career, breaks out of his shell and, talks more, shows more charisma, whatever. But I think they missed the ball, making Tye Dillinger a job guy. They can always change that. Aiden English was a job guy for the longest time, and he ended up becoming Baron Corbin was a job guy for the longest time. They ended up making him, repackaging him, and making him mean something, kind of. And same thing with Aiden English too, a part of the Vaudevillains. So there's always hope, but I feel like Tye Dillinger should be capitalized on in the near future. He's not getting any younger, and I think he's a great talent. He does have potential to answer your question, and he could be doing a lot more than what he's doing right now. So that's going to wrap up today's edition of #AskGSM. Has to be one of the longer editions in recent history. I mean, I know I'm off today, so I had more time to answer your questions, and there were actually more questions than usual. But they're all awesome questions, as always. And I forgot to mention this at the start of today's episode, but today is edition number 75, as you can tell from the title. So thank you guys for making it through 75 episodes, taking an hour out of your day to watch me answer your questions. But it's always worth it, though. I always enjoy, sitting down for an hour and talking to you guys, answering your questions and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. So make sure to send in your questions through Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a comment on the post I put up on Sunday nights or on the wall itself. You can tweet me on Twitter at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM, or leave a comment on this very video. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. And again, guys, thank you for supporting the show over the last 75 episodes. I hope to continue to do 75 more episodes and beyond. So again, thank you so much. Without you guys' support and questions and your viewing and whatever else, this show would not be possible. So again, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. But enough of that sappy stuff. go out, have a great Monday, enjoy Raw tonight, and I'll catch you guys next week.